Hello, welcome to our program on Sunday night, November 25th, 2018. We are at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones in between, and all time zones around the world. We come to you every Sunday evening. And what do we talk about? We talk about Spiritism. Spiritism was codified by Allan Kardec. You can learn more about him from this Facebook page, Kardec Radio Facebook page. A lot of people love this page. It's growing all the time. Please tell your friends about it. You can also go to my blog site, nwspiritism.com. Again, that's www.nwspiritism.com. There I post articles. I have different things about destination, reincarnation, near-death experiences, the future of Spiritism. I post new articles every day. You can sign up and get on the email list. I just do one or two, mostly just one a day, so I don't spam anybody. I also post these videos on YouTube and BitChute. So again, you can go to YouTube, my channel. If you go to my blog, nwspiritism.com, on the right-hand side, you can subscribe to my YouTube or my BitChute channel. I recommend the BitChute channel, but you can do either one that's good for you. And tell your friends about this. Tell your friends and share, if you can, share this video, share other videos on Kardec Radio Facebook page. Also, we have Kardec Radio. This program is being live streamed on Facebook. At the same time, it is being live radio played on Kardec Radio. Now, Kardec Radio is a great app. It gives you Spiritist programs, radio programs, 24 hours a day, and you can get to it by just putting an app on your Android or your Apple phone. It's free. It's a free app. Download it, and then you can just click on it, listen to it. I listen to it, sometimes at night, whenever. I'm always listening to Kardec Radio, and it's always have great programs by a lot of wonderful, wonderful people, much better than I am. So again, tell your friends. Oh, hello, Soul Souza. Tell your friends about it. Share our knowledge. Share Spiritism. Spiritism is so wonderful. A lot of people call it. It's called Christian Spiritism. We believe in the leadership of Jesus Christ. We mostly follow the Christian tenets, but there are a lot of more information. Hello, Barry. And yes, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving too. Hopefully I didn't gain too much weight. For those in the United States, it's a time to eat too much, unfortunately. But anyway, so and then Allan Kardec, of course, has also written other books, which again is the Gospel According to Spiritism, which I recommend for anyone who's read, the Bible, the New Testament, and didn't really, like me. I'm sure probably other people understood much better than I did. Understand a lot of what was said in Jesus's parables. And this one, the Gospel According to Spiritism, explains a lot of it. So it's another great book by Allan Kardec, who, of course, when he codified the Spirits book right here, when he codified the Spirits book, he was not a medium. What he did in the 1850s is there was this table rapping phenomena, and it got pretty popular. And then it got to where they could, actually, kind of talk to spirits. And he went to this, and then the daughters of his friends were, kind of had a fun time with it. But they noticed when Allan Kardec came to these things, everything got more serious. And then finally found out that he had a mission in life, and that was to ask questions and get answers. And what he did then is he listed 1,019 questions, really good questions in here. Question you could say here is a question is, if a child goes astray in spite of the care of their parents, are they still responsible? Question 583. They just tell you everything. It's just really information. Of course, he was very organized. And what he did is he set these 1,019 questions. He gave them to different mediums in different areas throughout Europe. He was based in France. In fact, Allan Kardec was his pen name. He was actually a name of a previous life. He was a Druid priest. And then unless he got the similar answers to the same questions from different mediums, he would not write them down. And so This was a whole effort by the Spirit of truth. And of course, that's the Spirit, the consoler that was promised to us in the New Testament by Jesus Christ. The consoler would come and tell us more information. And that is really what Spiritism is all about. It's not a religion, it's a doctrine. It's telling us more information about what Jesus meant by his parables. It tells us more information what is awaiting us in the real life, the spirit life, the other side. This is what we're told over and over again. Is because they're telling us this now because we are culturally and technologically ready for it. And what they have said is the information that they give to prophets, Jesus, Moses, Buddha, right? Socrates actually was a precursor of Jesus. If you see what he believed in, he's actually one of the ministers of Jesus, according to Spiritism. But what they're telling us is, as we get more mature, we can understand more. And for almost all of us, right, and as younger of those who were not raised in Spiritist families, is the concept of heaven is always kind of fuzzy, right? Well, you go to heaven and you're in this clouds, and they're telling us exactly what heaven is like, what the lower zone is like, where people go, who are, either too materialistic, and also the dark abyss, where people who are actually, more criminal type intention. But they also tell us there's no forever, as far as anyone being in the lower zone, or what a lot of people call like hell. It's always about reincarnation and people improving themselves in life after life, which brings to us why I wrote the book, How to Live. And this is a series, what this whole series of talk is. And I'm going to talk about verse 9 and 10 on this one, of how to live. And this was based on a poem given to Chico Xavier by Andre Luis. And it was called the Missives of Wisdom in the book. And this poem was put into one of the chapters of this book. And Herculano Pierres, he said, this would be a good poem to go through and tell people this is the technique of living. So what I've tried to do is very, verse 9 is the blessing of comprehension. And that's the end, and the start and the end of that. And that's why, so what I'm doing here in this book, How to Live, is I go through each one of the verses and I try to say, okay, this is what I think is meant by that statement. This is what I think the spirits want us to do. And this is how we could get there. So let's start with that. Let's start with the blessing of comprehension. So what does that mean? What does the blessing of comprehension mean? So part of our trial, our struggle here on this beautiful and cruel planet of atonement, is to find God and the divine laws he created by a path of our own devising. We are not allowed a shortcut. We are allowed hints and signs and visions to move us along. Now, Spiritist literature reveals the extent of the guidance and support we receive from the spirit realm. But at the end, attaining faith in God's plan is a mountain we must climb alone. Now, while we may have tethers to others close to us, it is up to our own stamina, dedication, and courage to pull ourselves up to the summit, because only through hard work and strenuous effort by our sure-footed reasoning can we build a solid base upon which to hold onto our faith, while the winds of society tries to blow us off the top of the mountain, right? That happens all the time. There's always someone coming along saying, nah, you can't believe in that, right? How can you believe in something other than just where we are now? We have this one life, and that's it. And we're born of minerals, and we go back to the soil, and you don't have a soul. That's unfortunately a large part of our culture now. Many people don't believe in that, and there's a good reason, because when you are born, you're given instinct and your conscience, and something's always telling people, like, there's more. It's inbred into us, and it is because we bring our instinct and our conscience with us from previous lives. So we kind of know there's something out there, and people quest for it. Other people try to tamp it down, but it's there, and it's there for a reason. It's for us to find out for ourselves. Now, in the Chronicle of the Life of Jesus in chapter 12, it's available on the internet, The Life of Jesus, are words that ring true. Now, I can't vouch for the authenticity of that entire communication. I can't, usually when I quote something, I say it's a Spiritist literature, Spiritist work, is, and it's published by, some Spiritist organization, etc. But in this chronicle of the life of Jesus, I detect true wisdom and understanding of the state of our plight as humans on earth. This is what a spirit messenger who said he was from Jesus told the medium who wrote this down. In exercising the freedom, the spirit finds the necessary calm for its faith, the fervor for bold ideas, and the decision to direct its own work. But can this possibly be a complete and lasting freedom? Unfortunately not. No, because the sad dependency of spirits on each other must exist for the establishment of God's justice in the world, in which the destruction of the inferior species by other superior species indicates a progressive march that concludes with man. In the worlds in which enormous disproportion between the spirits themselves come from causes painstakingly defined by the science we have established, a science that recognizes the immutability of natural laws. Now, it is a fact that the spirit's material dependency is a law of this world. Ergo, no one can avoid it. And the higher spirit that is temporarily here conquers a provisional freedom or saddens on account of the oppression of its willpower. The weaknesses of faith are inherent in any belief held by concessions from reason itself. The weakness in the faith are sources of continuing efforts for all those who practice a religion without really understanding it. Fanaticism, which consists of an ardent faith without reason, must be considered as a disease of the spirit. True faith is never separated from reason. It points to a personality convinced of its divine attributes, and this personality is forced to bow before the duties that result from it. Now, the paragraph is dense, right? It's probably as hard to follow along. There's a lot of information packed into it. So what I've done is I've tried to unpack it and say what I believe this spirit tried to give us, right? So number one, I think, is on this world, we have free will. We always have free will. But possessing free will doesn't mean we can make decisions in a vacuum. Our choices will always be limited by the world around us. We must make choices in the recognition of how our decision affects others and society at large. So we're not this person on an island. Oh, hello, Gian Cortinho. Hi from Brazil. Hello, how are you doing? So we are not on this alone. We are part of this process, right? And since we're on the planet of atonement, in order to become a planet of regeneration, we can't just say, oh, we're going to make this earth a planet of regeneration all by ourselves. We have to have a majority of people help us change the vibrations and harmonies so we can go together. So we are tied all together. We have no choice on that. It's interesting. The spirit world says over and over again, we have free will, but we are given in environments and trials, tribulations, and set on paths where our exercise of free will is much more limited than I think than people understand. In fact, there was in the Spiritist Review, Allan Kardec had a Spiritist meetings, and they interviewed the spirit Diogenes, and they interviewed him. They said, well, you on Earth, you're just you're really slaves. The higher you go, you actually can and I'm paraphrasing here. Very badly paraphrasing, but essentially he said, the higher you go, you really start to have free will, and what he's telling us is that we have free will, like, kindergartner or first grader, they have free will either to, paint with that brush or not paint with that brush or eat that glue or whatever. I think that's not too far off, but anyway, anybody can disagree with me of how you read Spiritist literature, but I like to put that out there. Now, number two, so I talked about free will. Number two is what was said in that paragraph, is we are bound by a set of divine laws. We can't escape the force of these laws. First, we reside on the planet of atonement, which means we live among a whole range of relatively immature spirits who are sent to this planet to atone for their past wrongs, karma. Our goal is to become a civilized spirit, one To become one takes a walk through the fire of our trials and tribulation. Only by arduous effort in multiple lives will we remove our blemishes. Now, number 3, those who are on this planet with more experiences and successes in previous lives are not given any special pass. They are subjected to the same waves of emotion and arrows of ill feeling like the rest of us. Higher spirits are expected to perform better by being more focused, drawing on their spiritual resources and history to withstand external forces. And we all know that, right? There's external forces all the time. There's commercials, there's propaganda, there's friends, there's always friends that always try to get you on the right or the wrong path, right? Whatever. Of course, when you're younger, it's always the wrong path. But, there's all these different, even Socrates said that it's almost impossible to be intelligent on earth. You're bombarded by thousands of emotions and thoughts all the time. This is tough. We're going through a not easy trial. And why is it not easy? Because they are trying to change our character, our personality. And you find this word personality a lot in spiritualist literature. And why is that important? Because that is really what we are. We are a personality. In this body of ours, this body is just temporary. This is nothing. When we pass on, this cocoon will just dissolve into the earth, right? But our personality, our thoughts, we are still who we are when we go over. And that same personality then reincarnated again. Could be in a different body, right? Or will be in a different body, different sex, could be in a different world. So that's important to remember. So it's always hard for anybody on this type of planet. And a lot of times, higher spirits are actually more sensitive to the injustice and chaos that is on this planet. Oh, Eva Ribeiro, I hope greetings to you too. So it's actually harder for them. In fact, what I read in one spiritual letter, I forgot where, but a lot of people, some people who become alcoholics or drug dependent really could be higher spirits or more, and just can't take the chaos and destructiveness of the world. Maybe than others who are more used to the injustice and chaos, right? Probably like me, who are spirits have been here many years and think this is the way things are, right? So it helps you knowing this of all these different levels of maturities, spiritual maturity helps you forgive people for when they do things to you or other things that you don't like or they're criminals or whatever. You just know that they're on a certain stage of spiritual maturity. Someday they'll be great people. I promise you. Not maybe in this life. Maybe they need to be locked up in this life, but in some future life, they will be wonderful people. Now, number 4, which they said very strenuously, giving yourself to religion, cult, or doctrine unquestionably is a sign of weakness and poor judgment. Abnegation of personal responsibility to an earthly organization demonstrates a desire to withdraw to a life without stress, without physical, intellectual struggle. They're telling us, right? We are here to struggle. We're not here to have, this PC culture where everyone can't say anything and you have to have your safe space. Well, the earth is not a safe space. In the future, it will be with a lot of good people there. But the earth right now is a place to discuss and hear ideas that you don't like. And maybe the ideas are good ideas that you don't like. And maybe your ideas are good ideas that other people don't like. But you have to be willing to listen. And because what are we doing here? We are training our ratiocination abilities to be able to know what fits within our conscience, right? That's what God gives us when we are born, our conscience and our instinct. And we have to be able to filter with our conscience what we decide is beneficial to us and everyone else or not. And that's really one of the hardest things we do. I know it's the hardest thing I've done all through my youth. I always rationalize why I could do something even though I knew I shouldn't, right? Now, number 5 in that, I said above, is faith is not a blind trust, right? Faith is a belief in the extrapolation of what you know. You don't go to say, okay, yes, I believe in God or I believe in this miracle because my pastor or my reverend told me so. And I'm just going to believe it. No, that's not good enough. You have to rationalize it and know it's true to the bottom of your heart. For example, you work with a group of people. You know who is capable of performing well or poorly. You select a high performer to carry out a task. You have faith in that person's ability to be successful only because you have seen results from that person before, not because that person promised they could do well. While that person may falter, which should cause you to reevaluate your point of view, your original vote of confidence was built upon a foundation of reasoning. This is why we must be open to these little signs and signals, synchronicities, as Carl Jung coined the term, is these little things would happen. And it was like, oh, why would that happen? Or let's say your aunt had a near-death experience and told you things in the future. And you say, well, who can explain that? Because that's what happened to me. Things were told about my future. That started me on this whole path. How can you explain that, right? You had that dream, and then you dreamt that something was going to happen, then it happens. All these little things are just little signs and signals that there is something else out there than our own little worries and our own little world, right? Our little world is just a place of training. So you've got to have your own confidence built upon found your own solid foundation. Now, the sixth point was, once we believe in the spirit world and its set of divine laws, then we must follow that to its logical conclusion, which entails behaving in a manner fitting with the Spiritist doctrine. So that's what they mean, which I think is the beginning, the blessing of comprehension, right? We have to understand where we are. We have to, believe in something with a rational foundation, right? So how do we get that? How do we get that true faith? How do we get that faith where we really believe with our heart, right? So that's the question. So faith is not the end, but the means to ascend in the spirit hierarchy. Only by acquiring faith, or as the Spirit Louise terms it, the blessing of comprehension, can we begin to truly learn from the next level of experiences, which will be assigned to us. So the next paragraph in that the Chronicles of Jesus tells us this is so. This is what the next paragraph says. Whatever the guideline cause of duty, it is a result of struggles of previous faults of the spirit, whose future duties shall be shaped in the same way, based on those of the present. Only very slowly can human nature get rid of its carnal tendencies, but only true faith can convey the thrust of courage, perseverance in all matters. Contempt for all dangers and the study of the duties become easier and easier. The material life is exhausted when the spirit conquers new positions, which rises from stage to stage until the complete annihilation of materiality. Brothers of mine, true faith honors the industrious intelligence who have traveled many paths, in which it has surrounded itself with protectors. True faith is a reward of all elderly spirits, whose intellectual development is not disheartened by society's moral decay. So, what do they mean by that? So the line of progression and the means to rise is clear and is consistent from other spiritist literature I've read. But never have I seen this formula laid out so succinctly. Now, again, I'll re-put it in a longer and more ordered form because this message is just packed with information. So, number one, over many lifetimes, through many different types of struggles, are we able to discharge the baser instincts and learn that love, charity, fraternity, and honor is the preferred path. Two, as we believe in a more civilized fashion, we are able to begin the intellectual leap to build a base of reasoning to attain rational faith. The third point, employing our newfound tool of certainty, even in a culture that rejects our ideals, we are given more complex trials which exercise your intellectual dexterity and readiness for even more responsibilities in the future. And as Rodolfo de Oliveira, who has a Spiritist group in Oregon, who's told us and make sure that people understand, is every trial you have on earth isn't necessarily one of atonement, one of because of cause and effect of karma. We are given new trials on earth in order to broaden our intellectual and our educational abilities, right? Our viewpoints. So some of the trials are just, no, let's teach this person what it's like to be a ditch digger, maybe, right? I mean, who knows? Or, you're put in charge of armies, or then you're put in charge of something else, or you have to work for someone. Those may not be karma per se. They may just be broadening what we are, because remember, as I've said many times on this program, in the spirit world, thought is action. We're here to train our minds. We're here to train, not just, as our mother said, if you can't say something nice, keep your mouth shut. We have to, if we can't think of something nice, change your thoughts, and don't let those thoughts start filtering, using your conscience, filtering the thoughts coming in and the thoughts going out. Okay. Then the last point, as part of our climb, as we go from life after life after life, we accumulate methods to withstand assaults against our basic principles. And at the same time, we establish relationships with other spirits to create a powerful support group on earth and in the spirit realm. I cannot tell you how important that is to know that you have a support group in the spirit realm. There are people out there that are trying to give you little hints, right? Inspirations, intuition, that are always helping you. And then if you have thoughts and intuition or instinct of something, and if it conforms what your conscience tells you, that is, must be 999 times out of 1,000 the correct thing to do. Try not to rationalize away decisions against your conscience. And boy, I'm still working on that, but that's an important point. Okay. So, and this is the stark difference between success on earth and heaven. On earth, there are many roads to the top, honorable and dishonorable. Haven't we all seen that, right? In fact, in corporations, it's I hate to say this, but in my observation, my poor little observations, is mostly the dishonorable people get to the top. That's just the way it is here on this planet. But in heaven, the only path is work, faith, and love. We begin as primitive, ignorant spirits, living life through trial and error. Unbeknownst to us, like a kindergartner, we are separated through a series of lessons, each making a faint impression upon our immortal spirit memory. Eventually, a realization occurs, a spark of insight that there may indeed be something above us in our desire for luxury and immediate pleasure in life. This flash of discovery propels us to create a rational foundation for our faith, which then enables us to commence a new level of trials and missions on Earth or another planet. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is, once a person understands the true meaning of life, one is able to look at life as a string of existences, culminating in an exciting discovery and reward in the spirit world. The momentarily deaths, the bouts of disease and depression are more tolerable because they had reason behind them. Everything that happened to us was meant to produce a reaction to promote our own education. The British say it best, right? Carry on. That is what we must do. We have to just carry on through life. We just keep moving forward with good humor if possible, and never stop learning from mistakes and experiences. This is the true meaning of the blessing of comprehension, the acknowledgement that we are on earth to become purified by a series of trials. We must walk through the fire to burn out the impurities and set in place beautiful and divine attributes. Whatever occurs to us is all meant to enhance our ability to love, forgive, and assist others. Now that was chapter 9 in my book, How to Live. Now, chapter 10, which is the 10th verse, is a participation in everyone's progress. So let's talk about what is meant by that. Let me take a drink for you. Now, I said earlier in this program, we aren't just placed on earth in isolation. We are here to interact with other spirits and incarnates. We have no choice. Even if we live on a deserted island, there would still be spirits around us, reading our thoughts and supplying us with inspiration. It is meant to be this way. For in this stage of our education, we are expected to live amongst the influence of good, bad, and indifferent spirits and humans of every variety. It's like, you're in junior high and you have all sorts of kids around you. Some just completely crazy, some are really nice. But you just see a little bit of everything, and you start to understand what the world's really like, right? So again, this concept is discussed in a translated communication in the life of Jesus. And of course, this communication was supposedly be from a spirit who identified themselves as Jesus, the medium in France in the 19th century. The medium was only known as Medium X, and the book was translated into Italian, then Spanish, and into English. It wasn't completed until a second medium took up the work in the 20th century. So one passage speaks about our dependency on others and its relation to the stage of the planet we live on. And I found, again, it is fascinating and revealing. This too is in chapter 12. And this is what they said. The dependence of the spirits increases relative to the inferiority of the world they inhabit. We stop right there. So as we are in a more inferior world, we are more dependent on others. Okay. I'll carry on with the quote. And I add that despite the spiritual light's intellectual strength of a spirit, it has to suffer more or less deplorably for the shadows cast on its ideal and for the assaults on its convictions in a world in which all religious beliefs are understood only through demonstrations relating to the past, future, present, and honor of the spirit. The family of man consists of alliances without homogeneity and without enough collective strength to achieve its objective. These alliances become miserable tests for spirits honored with their previously attached elevation in the moral and intellectual hierarchy. So the concept, explaining what this was said, the concept is that we start out as an ignorant spirit on a primitive planet and then are promoted up to a planet of atonement, where we must pay for our past wrongs from past lives in order to learn the lessons we require, where we live now, right? That we are more dependent on outside factors such as incarnates and discarnates, culture, society, schools, friends, and family is reasonable. I just not thought about this aspect of the growth of a spirit before. It makes sense, for we easily detect the inordinate influence that children have on each other. Excuse me. When one child executes a new action, then the rest follow. I'm sure you've seen this all the time. When, excuse me, I have to take a drink. What child see and hear around them causes them to act in a similar manner. As adulthood approaches, the effect of external stimuli lessens. Therefore, it must be the same for a young and immature spirit. So it's kind of like there's two things. It's one, we have to learn. It's one, we have to be almost broken down, and then we have to remake ourselves. It's like a boot camp where they just break the soldiers down so they understand that, no, you follow orders, right? And here we're broken down. So okay, either we have to start finding some sort of faith. We have to find our touchstone. And we know we have to be part of a team, because you alone it's not going to work. You're a part of the team. You're a part of the environment. And then in that paragraph again, the difficulties of a spirit who has been sent to a planet like ours, who has previously lived with civilized souls in a community where there is a close connection with the spirit world and which follows the divine laws and adheres to the rules of love, peace, charity, fraternity, are revealed. Imagine taking your adult self all the way back to first grade and being forced to interact with taunting, constant physical horseplay, and other infantile games. This is where we live, right? We live in that, for the higher spirits to come here to help us out. They probably is like, oh my heavens, where did I land? This is am I back in third grade? I mean, this must be terrible. So they must think, what have I gotten into, right? And, being sane alone in an insane crowd, they must experience momentarily bouts of self-doubt and thoughts of escape. Nevertheless, higher spirits who make a great sacrifice to come to Earth struggle through their lives trying to help others and lift our planet to the next level are doing us all a critical service. Now, how does all this happen? Well, it all starts with the family. How do we become a participation in everyone's progress? And well, so most of us who are here, as a spiritual in the learning process of a relatively low standard, right, like me, must start at the beginning. Our participation commences at the family level. We are born dependent upon others, our parents, our brothers and sisters, and our extended family. While we think we grow to be self sufficient, we are never far from dependency or proximity to incarnates or discarnates, right? Our thoughts and feelings radiate and are penetrated by the life force of a multitude of sentient life forms all around us. Hence, whether consciously or unconsciously, we are involved in everyone's life in our sphere of influence. Although when we were young, our parents were the first who had enormous impact over us. They held a divine responsibility to form our character. The Spirit Joanna describes the vital duties of the parents. This is what she says. The child is malleable clay, waiting for the diligent hands of the potter that will give it shape and content. The skillful potter is the educator that should shape the decent social being so they can build a harmonious society. When the child is capable of leading others, it is preparing itself to lead the human groups later on in life in the different areas of existence, oftentimes resulting in the commands of people and nations. The child will carry out this ministry exactly as it learned in the beautiful days of its personality shapings, delicately crafted by the patience and wisdom of their teachers. At home, the incomparable work of moral shaping of all the members that constitute it through the experiences and behavior of the parents, who will give demonstrative examples of the value of knowledge, character, honor, and domestic coexistence, representing the social segments of common life with the other members of humanity. The work is relevant and vital and should never be totally transferred to the school. In essence, in charge of the instruction, which must inculcate healthy habits through the teacher's conduct. However, parents are the noblest educators, both for the ethical and moral ground of the students, as to the errors that lead them to the imbalances of all sorts that are prevailing in these days of shadow and perversity. I mean, as usual, the Spirit Joanna d'Angelis is just amazingly penetrating in her logic. And she also tells us truth about our culture, right? Prevailing in these days of shadow and perversity. That is so true. I mean, I don't know how many people have, teenage children, but the internet and smartphones are truly terrifying. The information, the false information they get, even from all sorts of TV news, everything. So, what is Joanna telling us? She plainly states that our most important duty is to our children. That's the first step in the participation in everyone's progress. Not only they must be taught to grow up straight and strong and wise, but they almost be inoculated against our material culture. Children must be presented with a gift of spiritual sight. They may not use that gift for many years. It may be dormant for a decade or so, or even a life, but the spark will arise and be used by their spirit mentors to guide them onto the celestial path. And whatever good is bequeathed to them will carry on to future generations. Goodness begets goodness. It multiplies and trickles through and into other families and places you never thought possible. Even little gestures, such as one towards a stranger, could have far-reaching ramifications. Spirit Joanna tells us of an actual event which seemed small but made a great impression upon another at just the right moment. This is what she said. Incidentally, two children, respectively 7 and 8 years old, were walking to an elementary school without a word to each other, each absorbed in their own little juvenile world. The eldest was in a great conflict for not being able to communicate effectively with the other colleagues, suffering the discrimination of his humble status and for the color of his skin. They halted before crossing the street, waiting for the traffic lights to turn. When they turned green, both children advanced across the street. But the school pack of the eldest child, crammed with books and notebooks, opened, and some of them fell to the ground, forcing the child to stoop down to collect them. While he did so in an angry tone, the youngest child approached him, bent over, and while helping the other, asked, "May I help you? I like you very much." And they both smiled and left talking in the direction of the school. After a quarter of a century, when a citizen of African ancestry achieved administrative acumen in a large enterprise, he declared in his acknowledgement speech after the compliment, he said, "I owe my life to a 7-year-old boy who once helped me collect my textbooks and notebooks that had fallen from my school pack as I attempted to cross the street. I was resolved to commit suicide that day, but his jovial and innocent gesture transformed my life completely. Therefore, I have always thanked him for having survived, and now I thank him again for having reached this very position in anticipation for everything else good that may or may not come to be. So, another great message from the Spirit Joanna Downs is the man was grateful for the boy, but also who was also indirectly grateful for that 7-year-old's parents. If the younger boy was taught to distrust and scorn others, he may have just laughed at the boy who dropped his backpack. Instead, his parents instilled empathy and kindness, not merely by words, but with deeds and actions. So the families, and one of the most important things is participation in everyone's progression. But now, how to expand that influence. So kindness and gestures of support is one of the major themes that we read time and time again from messages from the spirit plane. Our spirit mentors are well aware of our busy lives and our preoccupation with trying to make a living, but they ask for little moments of caring. If we are serious to improve in this life, we are expected to assist the struggling colleague at work, to help the neighbor in their time of need, to give a kind gesture or a moment of our time to the stressed stranger in the street. It is through these tiny acts of compassion that we show to ourselves and others what our capabilities for higher notions of love and fairness could amount to if we all lived according to the golden rule. Every one of us should attempt to assist in the advancement of people within our sphere of influence. And if we all try, the world would be covered in positive thoughts of love and light. By helping others, we direct the focus of our attention away from ourselves and onto the joy of being of service. This is an important step to enable us to explore the satisfaction of serving instead of promoting our own desires. In the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, identifies the focus of self is the main hurdle holding back mankind from spiritual growth. Question 785, what is the greatest obstacle to progress? This is what's said. Pride and selfishness. This is the answer. Pride and selfishness. I refer to moral progress, for intellectual progress is always going on and would even seem at the first glance to give redoubled activity to those vices by developing ambition and the love of riches, which, however, in their turn, stimulate man to the researches that enlighten his mind. For it is thus that all things are linked together in the moral world as in the physical world, and that good is brought even out of evil. But this state of things will only last for a time and will change as men become aware of that. Beyond the cycle of terrestrial enjoyment, there is happiness infinitely greater and infinitely more lasting. This is why that quote, and those examples, this is why the Spirit Henri Louis exhorts us to participate in everyone's progress. Only by our dedication can we strive to lift Earth out of the chaotic state of a planet of atonement to the semi-paradise of a planet of regeneration, where hate and envy and inequality are vastly diminished, are eradicated, and our planet is cared for like the jewel of the solar system it's supposed to be. This is not to say we abandon our civic duties or commit violence to change the world, right? Jesus told us, then give to Caesar what is Caesar and to God what is God's, meaning that we should abide by the obligation imposed upon us by the society we reside in. While we may not like it, we've been sent to the world as it is to learn the lessons provided by the time and place chosen for us. Hence, we should certainly note the injustices and tell ourselves that we would never rule in like matter. Nevertheless, we should strive to be as positive as possible and approach the opportunity to change with our example first and foremost. The Spiritist doctrine plainly illustrates that the end doesn't justify the means. The means justifies the end. This has been told over and over again. Whenever some nation attacks another nation, have you noticed through history, it may take a while, but it never works out well. The spirit world always reins that back in, right? Everything is cause and effect, action and reaction. A nation has a right to defend itself, but you don't have the right to attack other people. And the spirit world is always working. This is the divine law, karma. It's real. It's there. The practice of violence and evil does not promote the eventual good. It only serves to elongate a culture of domination by one fraction over another. Think of the millions of people the communists killed, Stalin, Mao, millions, and how now those societies are forever changed. So the Soviet Union used to be the USSR, is now completely different. China went through more. They're actually changing too. They've changed a lot, but now they're getting back to being more of a organization that is telling everybody what to do. So we'll see how that works out. These type of things don't work out. Lying and trying to tell people what you think you want them to know so that you have power, it doesn't work long term, I should say. So the effects of spreading love and kindness is more powerful than one supposes. Now, we may not see that in the short term, but think of Jesus, who harmed no one, spoke of understanding and compassion, and yet his words reached the entire world, even with the deleterious example of the corrupt church hundreds of years after his death. Our little acts plant seed that may remain hidden, maybe for a life or two, right? Longer, but they are there, germinating in minds unseen by outward actions. Yet thoughts are percolating, whereby someday they emerge into the daylight, and then these gifts of kindness are spread once again throughout the world. This is how we start expanding, right? We expand our influence, we participate in everyone's progress, and as we participate in everyone's progress, we may never see it, but we may see it once we're in the spirit world looking down or in another life. And as we perform our good deeds at the micro level, at the very small level, our cumulative acts and harmonious vibrations, combined with guidance from the spirit world, creates a process whereby transgressions are resolved by future incarnations. Lessons are learned, and positive examples shine as a beacon to all. In the book Thought and Life, the Spirit Emmanuel explains how reincarnation functions to correct attitudes and behaviors, to eventually herd entire cultures to a superior level. This is what he says. Thus, those who trample over the rights of their fellow beings by taking advantage of their position of wealth or social power will later return to live in the same ill-treated way. There, they will receive in person the suffering which they created in the hearts of needy people. And if both aggressor and victim do not succeed in ample and reciprocal forgiveness, we will find a social picture of recurrent waves of hatred and vengeance, dissension and crime, a breeding ground for all sorts of delinquency. Societies of yesterday that enslaved human labor must today receive and nurture as its own sons those it has driven away from the land where they were to evolve. Invading armies that trample over the fields of poor and humble people will be reborn as the children of that conquered land, where they must work for the reconstruction of the institutions they had destroyed. Segregationist groups who humiliate other races return carrying the same pigmentation they had detested, collecting the result of their own deeds. Aristocrats who are insensitive to the problems of the lower classes, after living in luxury, are usually reborn in the poorest sections of the city. They drink from the cup of poverty, the repercussions of their cruelty, when in other times they had laughed at the pain and suffering of others. Human society has always been a gigantic filter of spirits, in which souls learn experiences regarding wealth and poverty, as well as giving and receiving orders. By this process, they gather the harvest of their own planting and either remain at ordinary ground level or ascend in obedience to divine evolution. We are told a lot, right? So hence, the spirit realm has a process whereby legions of immature spirits are collectively raised over thousands and thousands of years by struggling through various cultures and levels of technology to acquire the civilized aspects of good manners and to be able to balance materialism and spiritualism. Sometimes you're put in positions of power. If you abuse that position of power, then you're going to be the one's going to be abused too. You're going to learn, I don't think I want to do that again. If you are racist, right, and you're against one race or whatever, you'll be that. The next life you might be that race, right? And then you will understand what it's like. And this is why you look at humans, they're just spacesuits or diving suits or whatever. Their outside is nothing. It's all about the spirit and soul within them, because who knows what they were in past lives. men, women, different races, anything, right? It could be different planets. It could be a whole different alien race. So, but it's all, that's why we're here. We're here to learn. We're here to learn, to love, and be everyone. This is why, and we're here to help other people. And so as the more you demonstrate your goodwill, you're helping, right? The more that we spread out our and help everyone's progress. And we are all part of that process. We are one of the spirits being filtered through multiple lives, each one of us, multiple lives, classes, and experiences. And we are also here to interact with other spirits. It's hard to live here. Can't wait to go to a better place. That's what, so yes. And you know why it's hard to live here? Because it's meant to be. This, it's not, this is not, we're not put into a luxury spa. Earth is not meant to be a luxury spa, right? So the question is whether we wish it or not, we do participate in everyone's progress. The question is, do we do it willingly or reluctantly? If we demonstrate our humbleness and our awareness of why we are on Earth and actively contribute to the eventual ascension of our planet, then we too gain immense benefit, not only on Earth, but in rewards when we return to the spirit life. And, as Soul Souza says, this is a hard place. But if we just keep our sense of humor, and this is what I think with Spiritism, and I think that, my book and the more you read about Spiritism tell you is if you just know why we're here and you just know you're going to be things are going to throw at you and muds are going to stick to you, right? You just have to laugh at it. And when something happens, you go, okay, I must have done that to somebody else or needed that lesson. And you just roll with it. Right. It doesn't mean you're passive, but you understand why things happen. And those little slings and arrows don't hurt you so hard. So that's why, we got to seek out those who are trying to teach sanity to crazy world and listen to other people. And maybe they'll listen to you. Be part of their progress. Contribute what you can. Hear the messages of love. Embrace the knowledge that we are on Earth for a short time. It may seem like a long time for us, but it's really a short time. After all, we are immortal. Living 80 years is less than a blink of an eye to someone who lives forever. We are living but one life in a sequence of many, that we are on Earth for a reason, to help ourselves and others, and add your light and assist those around you to that dim flame of sanity and civilization, so more can be drawn to it. One day, when enough of us understand that we are immortal spirits with a plan, the world will indeed become a better place. So I want to thank everybody for being on our program tonight. And I shall return next Sunday for another program, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Pacific time, all the other time zones around. And please share this video. Tell people about Kardec Radio Facebook page. Tell people about nwspiritism.com blog, the YouTube, and the BitChute channel. Please subscribe. I'll load this video on that tonight. I also do like 5-8-minute videos on other aspects of Spiritism, so people can learn about that. Oh, thank you, Soul. And so it's all going to be. There's a lot of educational information out there. And of course, I want to make sure you understand that. So you go to my blog and you click on Allan Kardec's picture, it will take you to the EDI-CEI bookstore where you can find all of Allan Kardec's books, Chico Xavier, other authors in English. You can also find them, of course, on Amazon, and you can look them up. So there's a lot of good books out there, that will be on that site. The other sites you have to get to find Divaldo Franco's books, and Divaldo Franco books are awfully, and I quote a lot of those here. A lot of them are by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis, and they're also very good. I can't tell you how exciting it is to read each Spiritist book and learn more and more. So God bless all of you. You have a good night. I hope you recover from your Thanksgiving wait, for those of you who celebrate that festival. And of course, now we're getting closer to December, where we'll all celebrate Christmas. So God bless all of you, and good night.